Hello, this is Ty Anderson for Add-in Express. In this video, I'm going to explain the basics of building advanced Outlook regions using Visual Studio 2008, Outlook 2007, although I'll also demo my solution running inside of Outlook 2003, and I'll be building with Add-in Express 2010. Now, it is a little bit funny that I'm saying we're going to learn the basics of what's known as the advanced Outlook regions, but what I mean by advanced Outlook regions are the regions you can build using Add-in Express 2010 versus the form regions you build using native tools provided by Microsoft inside of Visual Studio, built typically with things like Visual Studio Tools for Office. Now, Add-in Express lets you basically customize views and forms inside of Outlook. Now, what I mean by views and forms is views would be what you see in the Outlook Explorer window, basically this main application window within Outlook, and where you can click a folder, it lists the items inside of it, and that's a view. That's the Explorer window. By forms, I'm referring to the inspector windows or inspector forms that when you open up an individual item inside of Outlook, whether it's a task, an email, an appointment, all the different items that are available, then the form that displays, that's an inspector form. And now whether you're using an inspector form or a Windows Explorer, not a Windows Explorer, an Outlook Explorer view, Add-in Express allows you to build custom .NET forms and then attach them inside various regions inside of Outlook. For example, we can add within, say, the Explorer window, we can add custom forms or regions to this top panel. We could do the side here within the folder listing. We could do the left side. We could do the bottom. And then even the same within the reading pane, we could do top, bottom, left, and right. And then also, too, the regions below the Outlook bar and the to-do bar are available as well. And then inside of the Explorer window, we can attach forms to the top, left, right, and bottom. And when displayed too, these forms or the advanced Outlook regions, you can have several within one pane, so that you can host several, and you'd have to toggle through or rotate through to make them display, as only one can display at a time. But you can hide and minimize them. You can move them. You can drag and drop them, or the users can. You can even set their positions within code. You also, too, their settings persist across Outlook sessions. So if the user were to move them to a different place, you can also restrict users from moving them as well. That's up to you at design time. But if the user does move them or resize them, then those settings are persisted, and then when they reopen Outlook, they're going to be where the user last set them. And one last item, too, is that the advanced Outlook regions from Add-in Express are version neutral within Office. So they support all versions of Office and Outlook, in this case, from Outlook and Office 2000 all the way up to Office 2010. Okay, I know that's enough explanation. You're probably ready to get on to an actual demonstration, and so let me just talk briefly about that. First, what we'll do is we'll create an Outlook add-in that's targeting Outlook 2007. I'm going to use Visual Studio 2008 to build it, but we're going to use the Add-in Express 2010 tools to build it. And this add-in, what I'll do is I'll create a couple of custom .NET based forms that will serve as advanced Outlook regions, and we'll host them in various places within the Outlook Explorer window and within Mail Inspector windows, and I'll just show how you can move them around. And then we'll finish it off with a little bit of code so I can show you how you can actually take control of these regions using your code and respond to events during runtime. And then lastly, I'll show how to execute this add-in or run it within both Outlook 2007 and Outlook 2003. Okay, let's get started. Let's create a new project, and I'll just hit the New Project button within Visual Studio 2008. And we'll see in the New Project dialog, Project Types, where I want to choose other project types. And under the Extensibility node, we'll find, within the Templates window, ADX-COM add-in, and that's what I want. I'm going to name this Outlook Regions Demo. And we'll say OK to create the project. and actually not create the project, but actually take us to the select a programming language. I want to choose Visual C# project, and I also want to use the version neutral interop assemblies, which will allow me to support this from Office 2000 on up. And in terms of supported applications, I only want Microsoft Outlook and StrongKey. I'll just take the default and click Finish. And now Visual Studio will go ahead and create my project, which should list the add-in module.cs file, which is the container for the add-in express objects. It opens it up in code mode, but actually what I want is the designer, so I'll say View Designer, and we'll take a look. Okay, just looking at the add-in module, we have this great menu here of all the different objects that are available. It used to only be available via right-click. And in this case, what I'm wanting is the Outlook Forms Manager, and I'll click it to add one. I also could have right-clicked and chosen Outlook Forms Manager from here. But now I'll select it, and let's take a look at its properties in terms of items. And right now I don't have any forms to add, so the properties window isn't going to mean much for us right now. We'll come back to that. But what I want to do first is I'm going to create a couple of forms. So I'll say add new item, and they need to be specific forms. It can't just be any, say a Windows user control or something like that. We need to actually, within our templates, we need to choose from the add-in express items, and I'll filter down further into the Outlook, and we want to choose ADX Outlook Form. So I'll call this one Region 01. I'll close its code window, and let's go ahead and create another one since we're here. Region 02. Okay, let's go ahead and get started designing. What I want to do is just create a couple of these that can be displayed all over and are kind of obvious, so you can just tell which is which. And so I'll do that by editing the back color. So for this control, I'm just going to go ahead and make it nice and green. So that's region 1. And then region 2, I'm going to make it yellow. Nice and obvious. In this one, I'll just put a couple controls like a button and a checkbox. And I'll go ahead and save it. And then on region 1, I'm going to throw some controls from Telerik on there, just so you can see that you're not limited to default .NET controls. You can use controls from third-party providers. And here, we'll do something like I think down here, down at the bottom, it's the rad track bar. Perfect. Okay, now that I have my two forms, let's go back to the add-in module and let's look at the ADX OL Forms Manager 1. And what I want to look at is the items collection. And I'm going to go ahead and create a first one that will allow us to, first off, put it inside of one of the Explorer views. And I'm going to say, I want to allow drag and drops to everywhere. What this does is it allows me to move the region anywhere that Add-in Express supports a region. So I'm going to do all of them. In terms of the Explorer type, I only want to support the mail Explorer type for this demo, but obviously I could do appointments, contacts, tasks, journal, you name it. Now the Explorer layout, at first pass, I want it to be on the top sub pane, and you'll see exactly where that is in just a moment. And then down below, I want to set in the miscellaneous grouping, I want to go ahead and set always show header. I want to have a close button. I want to leave the default region state as normal, which will mean it's displayed. And then this is the most important one right here, or very important I should say. It's the form class name, where we choose which form or which region, which form is going to be inside of this collection. So for this one, I want to use region 1, which is the item, the Outlook form I created right over here. And I'll say also too, if I want to be able to move it, I need to say drag and drop is allowed. There we go, true. Now, I don't know why I closed that because I'm not done yet. Let's create another forms collection item. In this case, let's make this one an inspector. I want to make it for mail items as well. Clearly we have many more items that are supported, inspector items. I also want to enable every drop region. There we go. And initially I want to put this one, say, on the bottom subpane. And once again, I want to go ahead and always show header and include a close button, leave the default state. The form class name, I want to select region 2, and I also want to say drag and drop is allowed. Now quickly, I just want to go ahead, I want to build the solution and register it so that Outlook will run it. And I'll just show you quickly how these work at runtime. So first up, we have region 1 or region 01 that's displaying in the top sub pane, and we can do things like minimize it and expand it. If I were to hit this, it would close it. We also have the splitter that also shows and hides the region. And perhaps one of my favorite features is this, is that the user at runtime has the ability to move the Outlook region wherever they like. And this is, as you saw in the forms collection, where I enabled every drop zone, they display in this way. So I could put it here. Notice that I have the ability to expand and collapse. Has the same splitter. I can also resize it, and it's going to reside just underneath the Outlook bar buttons. I could move it to the bottom. I could move it over here to the bottom of the reading pane, or to the right of it. I can also do things like make it the folder view. So I have this within the inbox. This control now is displaying as the folder view, and if I want to toggle between folder view and item view, I can use the arrows that are available within the header of the Outlook region. Like that. I could also click on folder view and see a drop down of views that are available. One other thing too, just so you can see, is there we go. Now I want to move to the bottom of the to-do bar, and now my control resides below the to-do bar. All these features, point them out because this kind of extensibility with all these zones to put your Outlook regions are not available out of the box with Visual Studio. I'll put this back where I had it. And now let's open up one of the emails that I have, and you notice here that I now have region 02 displayed, and it was expanded automatically. I can resize it to be more at the bottom, but its position is at the bottom, and since I've enabled drag and drop here, I can move it around as well. But these are the 4 drop zones basically available to you within the inspector window. All right, I'll close this out and we'll do a little bit more. For example, if you were watching, you probably noticed that the regions were not displaying the colors that I wanted, and the reason for that is because I failed to go in to the Forms Manager and actually override down at the bottom in the miscellaneous section. There's this use office theme for background property, and currently it's set to true, which means it's going to use whatever the user has selected as the office theme. I want to go ahead and say false, really, for both of these. and that'll take care of the colors. But then also too, there's the visual styles where you use the themed buttons that are available, and we need to add a line of code in the add-in module that will enable that, so that the buttons don't look squared off. If you were probably paying attention, notice that the colors weren't there. You probably also saw that the buttons were squared off and not rounded and glossy as you might expect them to be. Let's go ahead and add that line of code now, and what we need to do is go to the add-in module, and I'll move over with it selected in the properties. Then I'll go to the events, and I'll create the event, the add-in initialize event. And what I want to add here is a line that's just system, Windows, forms, application, and then what I want to do is enable visual styles. Alright, let's test this out real quick just so you can see that I'm not crazy, and that there is some rhyme and reason as to when your backgrounds and styles are implemented and when they're not. Alright, so then now you see here's the green background, and instead of a squared blocked off button, it's glossy and it's rounded off. And now if we look at one of the emails here, now we see in the inspector the same thing, a nice button, even the checkbox is using the visual styles, and it's yellow. So I'll close this and let's go back into Visual Studio. Go and just go ahead and remove the visual styling for now. And just like that, I can disable visual styles as well, or just delete the line of code. So, all right. Well, now that you know how to add some Outlook forms or ADX Outlook forms, and you know how to pop them into an ADX Outlook Forms Manager and build forms collections so that they display where you want, and you maybe have an idea now too how users can interact with them at runtime. What I want to do now is open up some code and show you how you can begin to manipulate the Outlook regions, and how you can grab instances of an Outlook region and either show and hide it, or set various properties, and just give you an overview of what the properties are and what some events are and when you might want to use them. In this first bit, what I want to do is add a Outlook Explorer command bar, and you'll see the nice new designer that's available in ADX 2010. And I want to add just a nice button, and we'll go ahead and find its. Let's see here. There we go. There we go. Captions is what I'm looking for. And let's say we'll show or hide. Show hide region 01. And let's flip over to the events and create a click event. Since I'm dealing with code, I don't really want to see my toolbox. I want to see a bigger code window. And in this event, what I want to do is basically toggle the region state property of the region 01 form. So let's go ahead and call region 1. I'll just call this FRM as form, and we're going to use a function that's available in another blog post by Fedor that I'm going to use this code. I'm going to paste it in. But the function is called getVisibleForm. There we go. Now what I want to do is if form, just want to first off make sure I grab an instance of the form. And then what we want to do is we're going to use another function and this function will change our state. Now let's go ahead and I'll create this function. So what I want to do is add an express Outlook, and then what I want is ADXOL form, and then what I want to do is call this get visible form. And here's the code I'm going to paste in. And what we're doing is we're calling, as you'll remember, ADXOL forms collection 1. I want to call this collection's get current form function, and then what I'm passing in is the embedded form states. I want all forms that are visible. Now, if you remember, let's go back over here to the add-in module and look at our forms manager. We'll see in the properties in our items we're going to have the two collections, ADXOL forms collection 1 and ADXOL forms collection 2. And remember that each of these two collections within it are managing instances of either region 01 or region 02. So we know that in ADXOL forms collection item 1 that we're dealing with region 01 of that custom form, which looks like this. So we know here we're dealing with, if I wanted to work with the other region, region 2, I could change it to that. But keep in mind that since region 2 is really only going to display on inspector items, given that this is an Outlook command bar, it would have no effect. And now I need to go ahead and add one more function here called change region state, which again I'm copying from Fedora's blog post. And I'll be sure to include a link in the intro to this video. But change region state will take the form that's passed to it, and as long as it's not null, then it's just going to switch. So if it's hidden, it'll change to minimized. If it's minimized, it'll go to normal. And if it's normal, it'll go to hidden, which means maybe I should come over here and change the caption. I'll just say toggle region 1. That makes a bit more sense. So let's take a look at this, and you can see the results. Okay, so toggle region 1 right now, it's visible. So if we're looking at our code over here, which means normal, it should now toggle to hidden. So I'll click our toggle button, and there we go, it's now hidden. And since now that it's hidden, we would expect next to go to minimized. There we go, minimized. And then now that it's minimized, it should toggle to normal. Perfect. I'll go ahead and close this, go back to our code. So this example covers how you can use a command bar and then the forms collection from the OL forms ADXOL forms manager to grab an instance of your region and manipulate its region state, which region state's a new property with ADX 2010. But what I also want to show you is how you can grab hold of it within the region itself. So let me go back here and add. We'll just do a normal button for this guy. I'll say hide me as the text. Leave it as button 1. We'll go to our click event, and within here I can just grab hold of it and say this.region state equals, whoops, there we go, and I'll say hidden. We'll go ahead and hit the equivalent of the F5 button, and we'll see how this works. So now with the hide me, there we go. She's now hidden. And if we do the toggle, working just as we'd expect. So now that you know a bit about how you can grab really the instance of the control and manipulate it. And obviously there's a lot of properties and events and things that you can utilize in your code. Let's talk just briefly a bit about when you might want to do things like this. So if we're looking, say, at region 1, let's look at the events that we have to us available to us. So such things like click or what have you. But we have going the wrong way. So like ADX before form show, which you can use to say in this case where we're attached to a mail item, or we're dealing with mail items, we can take a look, say we can grab hold of the inspector object, take a look at the properties inside of it, say the body, and see if there's any important words or something like that, like maybe super duper important or alert or who knows, maybe foul language, stuff like that. And if you find it, then you can display the form region and maybe whatever business rules you might want to support in there that might alert people to, hey, there's foul language, do you want to remove it before you read the email or something like that. Or you can, and if it's not found, you can prevent the form region from displaying. You can also take similar actions, after form show, there's form hide events, there's the close button click. You have an extensive event model where you can control how your advanced Outlook regions behave. I'm going to close all this. Now what I want to do is I want to show you quickly just how everything that I've done here, which is running inside of Outlook 2007, it runs just as well inside of Outlook 2003. It would also do so inside of Outlook 2000. And what I'm going to do is I'll close everything, and let's do, I need to right click and say create a setup project, and I'm going to walk through this just real quickly. So I have a setup project, and then what I'll do is I'm going to open up another machine that is running Outlook 2003. I'm going to install it, and then I'll restart the demo at that point in time and just walk you through the same bits running inside of Outlook 2003. Okay, so as promised, I'm on a system that's running Office 2003. It's a Windows 7 system, and I've gone ahead and installed the Outlook Regions demo sample that we've been building here. And so now what I'm going to do is open up Outlook 2003 and just show you the Outlook Form Regions displaying and running within the Outlook Explorer window, as well as the Outlook or the mail inspector items. So we can see here the Hide Me button works. We can toggle. That's all great. And then we have the region 2 displaying just as you might expect. So that really shows the power here that versions that didn't even have Outlook form regions, Add-in Express brings form regions to those versions. And the best part about this is you can do this with one or a single code base. There's no changes required to support previous versions of Office. So in this video, I've shown you how to build Outlook form regions. I've shown you how to take control of them with code. I've shown you how to attach them to Outlook Explorer windows, which are really called Outlook Explorer views in Add-in Express lingo. And then I've also shown how to attach them to inspector windows, or in Add-in Express lingo, those are inspector forms. I hope this is useful, and I'll see you in the next video.